Bonjour, Émilie Talpin, OM System Ambassador in the US. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I'm going to give you 5 advantages of having a macro four third camera for your macro photography. So let's get started. So you know me, I'm an OM System Ambassador, so I shoot OM System, but even if I wasn't an ambassador, I would still shoot with OM System. Why? Because I love macro photography and because I truly believe that macro four third have huge advantages when it comes to doing macro photography. And I'm going to give you 5 reasons why, if you are a macro photographer, you should really look at a macro four third camera. So the first advantage is that macro four third gives you a greater depth of field at the same magnification. Let me explain. A macro four third camera has a smaller sensor. That's right. It's not a full frame, it's not a crop frame, it is a macro four third. It's smaller. And at the same aperture and magnification, well, you are gonna get more depth of field, meaning that you're not gonna have to focus stack as much and you're gonna get a lot of details. And that's one of the biggest advantages, in my opinion, of macro four third. When I am leading workshops, especially for refraction, I can see some people who are full frame and are having a really hard time because the subject is so teeny tiny and they're not gonna get the same result as I'm having with my camera. So it's a huge advantage. I mean, what you are getting at a f22 is quite a lot of depth of field. So yes, I do have a little bit of an advantage when I'm shooting macro photography, and a lot of my photos are between f16 and f22, and it enables me not to have to focus stack in some instance. And I'm still getting some pretty good result. So one shot will do it with a macro four third. That's pretty neat because not all the insects are gonna wait for you and stand still so you can focus stack. And you know what? There are a lot of times where I want to be out in the field taking photos and getting my subject in sharp focus and get enough depth of field. And with my macro four third camera, well, I can do that. Now that leads to the second big advantage is the high magnification. That's right, your crop sensor. So if you have a 60mm macro lens, it's the equivalent of a 120mm macro lens. And boy, do you get some amazing results right straight out of camera. When you're looking at your camera, you don't have to do any crop. Your subject is already filling your frame. I love that. Again, that's what I was talking about when I do refraction. People are thinking, well, I can't even see my refraction. Whereas on my camera, because of the 2x crop factor, I see way better what's happening. I don't have to crop, and not having to crop is huge. This is my shot and I can frame it the way I want, straight in camera, and basically I can get closer without having to crop, which is great, and which allows me to see more detail instead of having to use a magnification all the time, like I've seen people doing in the field, and they're always kind of wondering, how do you get this image straight out of camera? This is what I can get with my macro lens. So huge advantage of a macro four third camera for macro photography. The third advantage, which is also another big one, is that macro four third are usually smaller camera and they're lighter. Two very important factors with macro photography. You're going to spend a lot of time in the field holding your camera, and having a camera that's light, compact, it's so important. And in terms of OM system, I can tell you that the ergonomic is so important. I love my OM1 Mark II because the grip is the best. I'm going to tell you a story. When I first tried my first, at the time it was Olympus camera, I fell in love straight away because of how it was fitting in my hand. Like holding it, it felt right. It felt like it belonged to my hand. And that's huge, right? It's like having a pair of shoes that doesn't fit, right? If you feel like your feet is being restricted, if you feel like your feet are touching the bottom of your shoes, this is not going to be a pleasant experience. Well, it's the same for a camera. You need to make sure that you have a good grip. It's key when you're holding your camera for many, many hours in the field. Also, having lenses like the 30mm macro, the 60mm macro, those are so small. So it's a plus because you don't have to carry much weight compared to a full frame camera and a lens that will go on it. Even the 90, it is a big lens, but it's quite light. So for me in the field, I can spend many hours with my camera and not being tired and not missing a shot. Now, the fourth advantage of Micro Four Thirds is the stabilization. That's one of the best in the industry with OM system, and that enables me to basically handheld all my shots. That's right, all those shots that you're seeing right now, handheld, handheld. I don't use a tripod for those shots. Yes, I do use a tripod when I'm in studio doing water drop refraction, but otherwise I do not. Big advantage because I don't want to have to set up my camera and miss different angles. I think that when you set up your camera on a tripod, you're going to be less likely to move around. And also that means that you're focusing on one flower, waiting for an insect to come in. Okay, that's great, but how many other shots are you missing because the insects are all around and not coming to that one flower? I want to be able to work around my subject and make sure that I have the best background for my subject. So being able to handheld my shot because of the stabilization is so key. And the fifth advantage of Micro Four Thirds camera is the computational technology. I mean, we're talking about macro photography. I told you that your depth of field is going to be improved with my Micro Four Thirds camera, but still your depth of field is going to be quite shallow. So you need to be able to focus stack. You can do that in camera. Focus stacking. You can bracket if you want, but focus stacking, your camera will take, the OM1 Mark II will take up to 15 shots and stack them together in camera and give you a result. This is amazing. This is saving so much time in my workflow. Highly, highly recommend it. You also have high-res mode. If you have an insect or a flower that's not moving, there's not much wind, then you can also do a high-res shot with up to 80 megapixels if you're on a tripod. So if you need to blow up your shot and put it on the Empire State Building, well, you can. So there are a lot of different computational features that our Micro Four Thirds camera and especially OM system have that are going to make a big difference when you are a macro photographer. So those were my 5 reasons why I think Micro Four Thirds is a step above all the different camera that you can get. And you shouldn't overlook Micro Four Thirds because people are going to tell you need megapixel, people are going to tell you it's not, big enough as a camera. It's ridiculous. Look at all the different photographers who are using Macro Four Thirds, check out their work, look at what they are producing in terms of macro photography, and I think you'll be pretty convinced that Macro Four Thirds is the way to go if you want to do macro photography. So let me know what you think in the comment. Are you an OM system user? Are you a Macro Four Thirds user? Do you use Macro Four Thirds for macro photography? What are your favorite features of Macro Four Thirds for macro photography? I cannot wait to talk about this subject with you. And until then, happy shooting. I will see you next week. Bye bye, au revoir.